You're listening to Enzy Unlimited, where we discuss all things performance. Each week, we'll bring you sharp and engaging episodes covering all things sports science and sports nutrition. This will help you fuel up and train smarter. Tune in for actionable insights that will keep you at the top of your game.
Enzy Unlimited is proud to be powered by TeamBuildr.
TeamBuildr is the software for performance coaches around the world. Their powerhouse software increases efficiency, saves paper, and can handle any type of programming. It is the perfect fit for performance facilities and remote performance coaching. TeamBuildr is full of tools that performance coaches need, allowing them to create and sell programs online, provide nutrition information through PDF documents, and gather wellness questionnaire data to stay on top of how their athletes are feeling. It contains multiple tracking methods, 16 plus reports, evaluation testing, and goal setting, just to name a few. Head to teambuildr.com and sign up with your code ENZY to start your 14-day free trial.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Enzy Unlimited. I'm here with my co-host Nick, and today we'll be talking about beyond the basics. So Nick, So going beyond the basics to explore how sports science principles of plyometric, isometric and dynamic effort training can enhance athletic performance. So Nick, can you please tell us, what does it mean to go beyond the basics in athletic training, and why is it important to integrate more advanced methods into an athlete's program?
Absolutely. So this is a topic that I wanted to cover on today's podcast. It's something that I would say extremely passionate about. I wouldn't just say passionate. I think this is probably a topic that I speak to you about very often.
Just say very quickly, Nick is very passionate about all things athletic development, and our entire conversations at home is this program, exercise, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it takes up 99.86% of my conversation and my vocabulary, and this is a big chunk of that percentage. Don't get me wrong, traditional training methods, max effort training, traditional strength training, I guess, in the sense that we would all think about when we think of strength training, is really important, and I would consider it a foundation of athletic development. We need strength. We see this in youth development of athletes significantly, is when they get stronger, they start a gym program, their athletic development increases, their gameplay increases, and they get better at expressing that strength on the field. And I spoke about this in a previous episode of a case study that we had with one of our athletes, where I do believe at some point you can be strong enough for your sport, or you can be strong enough for the tasks and the requirements of the sport that you play in. And at that point, I feel like these traditional methods and that the foundation of strength that we build with these traditional methods kind of become the meat and potatoes, I guess, and they become, you hit a limit and you hit a ceiling, and to go beyond the basics is going to yield some really nice benefits from an athletic perspective. So what does that look like? So you mentioned things such as plyometrics, isometrics, and dynamic effort to enhance the speed, the power, and the agility of an athlete. And we would look to implement these things on top of the maximal effort work, or the foundational strength work that we have. So when I say going beyond the basics, something that I hear very, very often, and when I do it, it does kind of, I guess, irk me a little bit. And I want to also just really quickly touch on the fact that I said irk and not ick. It's irk. It's irksome. It irks me when I hear that. Just do the basics, and don't get me wrong, the basics are not bad. They're a foundation, but they're just that. They're basic, as the name suggests. And if we want high-level results, I personally believe that we need to implement high-level training stimulus beyond just the basics to elicit these results that we're looking for.
Yeah, amazing. And I suppose a lot of the time people might get a little bit too caught up in the basics because that's all that they know. So maybe you can talk to us a little bit about how athletes can utilize plyometric trainings and how they are important in athletic development.
Yeah, for sure. So off the back of strength training, we're going to use our max effort work to build a really good foundation of strength. And then we can look at implementing some of these things like plyometrics. So plyometrics involve high intensity explosive movements like jumps, bounds, hops, throws that train your muscles to produce maximum force in the shortest amount of time possible. This can be used to improve reactive strength and power by training the stretch shortening cycle, which is really essential for athletes. We see athletes express a dynamic and violent change of directions, upwards of hundreds of times even during a game sometimes. That's utilizing this stretch shortening cycle, and the more explosive an athlete can be, the better they're going to perform on game day. So going beyond just the basics of traditional strength training, we can utilize things like plyometrics to help an athlete build this explosive power, and then that explosive power can be expressed in events such as sprinting and jumping and cutting and changing a direction and giving an athlete an advantage over a competitor that I guess may not be as proficient in this quality. In terms of implementing a plyometric work into, I guess, a workout, there's multiple ways that we can do that. Some of my favorite ways to do it is by micro dosing these plyometrics in a velocity block at the start of a workout, and this can be a really nice way to introduce an athlete to more ground contacts during the week, and some more explosive reactive type movements. And they can serve as, I guess, like a priming block or neglect to say warm up, but I guess like leading into more of that heavy style and dynamic style of training is we can use these plyometric movements in between the movement specific warm up phase and the strength block. We can kind of pop in that velocity block in there, which does work really nicely. And another favorite way of mine to do so is also with some contrasting sets. So what that might look like, there's various different ways to program a contrasting set. Some of the ways that I like doing it, or my favorite way of doing it, would be a heavy strength-based movement followed by a plyometric or velocity movement that mimics the action of the strength movement prior. So that might look like a heavy squat followed by a box jump, for example.
Yeah, amazing. And that's actually something that you've been putting in my program a lot lately. And one thing that you didn't mention is that they're really fun and they kind of make your training a little bit less boring.
Yeah, they are fun. It's something that, as kids we run and we jump and we change direction a lot. And as an adult, I guess at some point we sprint and we jump, and it's the last time we do so without ever knowing. And then just one day we stop doing it and we never do it again. And, I saw a thing, I saw a statistic fairly recently, and I can't remember exactly what the statistic was, but it was something along the lines of high 80s or low 90s% of adults over the age of 35 will never sprint again.
Yes, I've seen that too. And that actually inspired me to start running.
Yeah. And so, if we think about it from an athletic standpoint, sprinting and jumping and plyometric movements all kind of use that same principle of fast ground contacts, of really strength and dynamic movement at specific joint angles and the stretch shortening cycle and all of those things. And, if we can implement that in our training, that really is, I believe, something that can separate athletes from athletes that don't do those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what about isometric training, your absolute favourite, my least favourite? What role does that play in athletic development, and how can it be used to build strength and stability beyond traditional dynamic exercises?
Yeah, so I do love isometrics. I'm my athletes know I love isometrics, and I don't necessarily love doing them. I don't think anyone, I'm yet to meet someone that loves doing them in the moment, because they are very hard, regardless of the type of isometric that they're doing. They're all hard in their own various ways, but the benefits that can be, that come from doing an isometric and including isometrics in your training are vast. And I believe that for an athlete, this is something that should be included and should definitely make up a decent portion of our training at certain times during the year. A little brief rundown of isometrics, and I'm going to go really in depth on some future episodes of isometrics, but for today we'll focus on the classic isometrics, and the classic isometrics being what the literature would refer to as PIMA or HIMA, so a pushing isometric holding action, or we commonly would refer to that as an overcoming isometric, or a HIMA being a holding isometric muscle action, and we would commonly also refer to that as like a yielding isometric. So a pushing isometric would be contracting and trying to overcome an immovable object. So think along the lines of an isometric mid-thigh pull. So, you set up some racks, you get a barbell under it, and you set it up so the height of the barbell is at your mid-thigh, and so you have like a bit of a bend in your ankle and a bend in your knee, and you try to pull that barbell up to a standing position against a rack that's fixed into a ground. You can't do so, but you're giving it your absolute all to try and do so. So that would be a PIMA, or a pushing isometric. And then a holding isometric would be think like a wall sit, or a split squat barbell holding isometric that people see me do on Instagram all of the time. And this is basically a muscle contraction to hold a joint at a specific angle without with no joint movement. So we can use isometrics in our training to build strength and resilience at specific joint angles. So Alex Natera has done a lot of really great work on this, on what he has termed a run specific isometrics. And further to this, I would even go as far as to say we can utilize isometrics in sport specific positions. So think along the lines of, if you're a rugby player and you are in the scrum and you need to be pushing at a certain joint angle in these scrums and producing force at these joint angles, we can build a ton of strength in the tissue via doing traditional strength training methods like squatting and deadlifting. And then what we can also do is build a ton of strength and resilience and capacity at specific joint angles where you're going to be required to produce that force in movements such as a scrum. So think of something along the lines of setting a barbell up against a rack nice and low, and then squatting down to the barbell like you're in a scrum, and then pushing against that barbell isometrically. The barbell can't move because it's in the rack, but you're pushing maximal force against that barbell for 6 to 10 seconds at a time with short bursts, and that's really going to produce a lot of strength and stability at those specific joint angles. And that's why I really like them. We can use isometrics during our training as well in season. as a way to accumulate a really good amount of volume of workload while looking to minimize joint actions as well. So when we talk about fatigue management, one of the things that I look at in terms of fatigue management for an athlete is how many joint actions are we expressing during the game, and then how can we then still get the workload required in the gym during the week, while minimizing the amount of joint actions that are occurring in this athlete, which therefore is going to minimize fatigue in that athlete and injury potential in that athlete. And then we can look to express those extra joint actions in things like conditioning sessions, speed sessions, and then games on the following week. So I feel like a big part of our role as S&C coaches in the team environment is to really work off this game day plus minus model and look at how many joint actions are occurring over here and how many are going to be occurring over here as the bookends of the game on each week. And then how can we get the work required during the week to still get the stimulus that we need to progress while minimizing those joint actions, and isometrics are a fantastic way of doing that.
Yeah, wow, that's really, it's good to understand, the why behind these things, especially if you don't enjoy that exercise. I find when you know why you're doing it and how it can help you, you're more likely to do it, right?
Of course, yeah.
Beautiful. Now, what about athletes adding dynamic effort training into their program? What would that look like, and why is that important?
Yeah, so dynamic effort is something that I'm personally really enjoying at the moment, and it's something that I've used in my own training, and I've used in athletes' trainings at certain times during my life and my career. I guess I popped this topic in here and I put it up on Instagram and just earlier this week actually, and had a few really engaging and in-depth conversations off the back of the post that I put up, the story that I put up around dynamic effort. And I guess when you think dynamic effort, what does that look like? And essentially what I'm talking about when I say dynamic effort work in the context of strength training is lifting a lighter weight for maximal speed and focusing on developing speed strength. And if what does speed strength look like? Speed strength is a plot on the strength, on the force velocity curve, and basically it means the ability to move weight explosively. So a dynamic effort work or speed strength is going to help develop an athlete's rate of force development, which is again crucial in sports where quick explosive movements occur, often change of directions, and me personally, the story that I put up on Instagram and my personal belief is that while maximal effort works and getting stronger is very, very important, and that is the foundation of athletic development, especially from an S&C perspective. It's in the name, strength and conditioning. Strength is very, very important. I believe that beyond our max effort work, we need to be including dynamic effort work, as I believe that dynamic effort work is the link between our maximal strength and our explosive sport-specific movements that we express on game day. So if we can get really, really strong, we can use that maximal strength to develop speed strength and moving the bar really, really quickly and moving explosively, and teaching an athlete to coordinate their joints and themselves and their body and their muscle contractions to a point where they can express that strength explosively. Then include things like the plyometric movements to teach an athlete to then produce that dynamic effort while moving through space. We can then utilize that base of athletic performance to then move towards more sport-specific movements. We have the joint strength and resiliency at specific joint angles from the isometric work that we're doing, and overall this I guess, beyond the basics approach of including other aspects of physical development beyond just traditional strength training is building a complete athlete that's not only fast, but is also strong at specific angles and can express that strength dynamically when required to.
Yeah, amazing. I really love that. I've never really thought of it on that level before, so that's really, really good. Thank you for sharing that. So what about if athletes and coaches want to integrate plyometrics, isometrics, and dynamic effort methods into their training? How would they go about doing that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways that we can look to incorporate these methods. There's the traditional, I guess, block periodization method where you're going to plan out specific blocks of work that prioritize specific outcomes that you're looking for. So generally, coaches that follow this method will have a number of strength-focused blocks followed by a number of dynamic or like speed-focused blocks followed by endurance blocks, blah, 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 blah. And that's going to then focus these blocks of work on specific qualities. And that is not bad. That is, that's been utilized many times over many years to varying degrees of success. Personally, it's not necessarily the way I would go about doing things. I would lean much more into the second way that we could implement it, and the way that I'll talk about now, which is more of a conjugate style of implementing these systems and these qualities. And basically what a conjugate style of programming might look like is when I say that, I know that there's certain people that follow me that are just like clapping their hands, and there's other people that are rolling their eyes. And I guess that the reason being that conjugate made famous by Louis Simmons and Westside has either very, very devout followers or very, very vocal detractors. You either love it or hate it, I guess. But the reason that I love it, and the reason that I would really lean towards this style of programming for an athlete, is that we can look to implement all of these qualities throughout a week. We can, and I would look at using this conjugate style of programming overlaid over a game day plus minus model. So what that looks like is... Sorry about that. So what that looks like is we would have the game day as day one, and then we would have, that's going to be the biggest exposure, and then we're going to backfill from there based on how that game went, what the player was required to do during that game, and then we can build a week based off of that, where we touch all of these different qualities, whether it's dynamic work, max effort work, isometric work, and we can do it on an undulating system based on how each game goes on each week, so that when we're not doing big blocks of time where we only focus on strength, where we only focus on speed, where we only focus on endurance, because at any given point, an athlete can be required to call on any of these qualities in order to win a game or to overcome a competitor. And if you've spent a big, say, a couple of blocks only focusing on strength or predominantly focusing on strength, and you're going to need to tap into maybe some explosive movements or some speed work to overcome your competitor in this game, and you don't, your speed and your explosive movements aren't at the top of their game because that's not the quality you've been focusing on, that's going to put you at a disadvantage. Whereas if we follow this conjugate style of system where we touch all of these things each week and we keep them all at a very high level, at any given point, at any given game, we can express these athletic qualities that we have to overcome our competitor.
Yeah, amazing. That's so insightful. Thank you so much for sharing that. So guys, if you have any questions about going beyond the basics, make sure that you reach out to Nick on his Instagram or the Enzy Athletics Instagram, or if you need your own personalized program that does implement all of this, if you're unsure how to do so yourself, just send Nick a DM. He'll be happy to have a chat with you. So make sure that you like this episode and leave us a comment in the comment section if you have any more questions.
If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, leave us a positive review or a comment, and share to your socials and tag us.
Your support means the world to us, and showing your support through these actions really helps us grow. Thank you so much for tuning in today, guys, and we'll see you in the next episode.